Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 140, and let's just get into it. So obviously we've got a big weekend of fights coming up. A lot of fights. The UFC is back in the UK with another London headliner with Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy. Winner of that should get a title shot. Maybe they're not. We'll talk about it. We've got a couple of world title fights here in the States. Emma Williams versus Carlos Adames. Lester Martinez versus Emmanuel Alim, I believe is it said. McConlan's back. You got PFL Madrid. A lot to talk about, but let's start with the broadcast news. Yesterday, it's officially announced that Top Rank will be going on to a non-exclusive multi-year deal. They say they are still looking for a second broadcaster. We know that Bob Arum has talked for a long time about wanting to have multiple a package with multiple subscription or with multiple broadcasters, similar to how the NFL and other big organizations do that. I've always thought that doesn't make sense because they just don't have the amount of dates. They barely have enough dates for one broadcaster. It doesn't make any sense to me why they would have multiple. I mean, they've got a big roster, but not that big. So I don't think it makes any sense. I don't even think it would make sense for somebody like the UFC when they have almost weekly events. Top Rank has monthly or maybe twice a monthly events. It's just like you don't have enough to do two different homes. But anyways, they say they still want to do that, but DAZN will be their like main home. We know that they were looking to get a deal done for the past year or so. I think that's because Top Rank was holding out to get bigger offers from bigger broadcasters, and they never came. And so they eventually went back to DAZN and said, "All right, let's see what we can do. Let's make something happen." And they got the numbers figured out. I do know that the numbers are bigger than 1 to 1.25 million, as the very, very non-biased Ring Magazine was saying. We don't know what those numbers are, but it was just reported that that number was off and that they're getting a lot more than that per event, because I know that Top Rank there, they have like a champions clause where the champions will like automatically get at least $1 million per fight. So that budget will only cover the main event fight, one of the main event fighters' purses, and then you've all the other costs and undercard and stuff to pay for. So that never made any sense. We don't know how much they're getting, probably not a ton, but enough, to still have a good show. We don't know when the first event is. They were saying could be as early as May, could be as early as June. And to me, that's not could be as early as. I'm like, oh, we have to wait until June. If they have an event in May, I'd be very happy. We'll see where it is or who's headlining. At the press conference, you did have Emiliano Vargas, Shushu Carrington, Keyshawn Davis, and Abdullah Mason. Keyshawn and Abdullah were kind of talking some smack. I don't know if I'd say smack, but they were exchanging words about potentially fighting one day. I mean, it could definitely happen. They're both young. They're both in similar weight classes. We know Top Rank does not really like to match their guys up. I mean, just look at Shushu. He's one of 3 featherweight champions that Top Rank has, and none of those guys have unified. Now, Shushu just won his title, but Espinoza and Leo have been champions for well over a year. I mean, Espinoza's been champion for over 2 years, I think, and then like 2.5 years, and then Leo's been a champion for about a year and a half. They don't like doing it. They do not like risking it for the biscuit. Hopefully that kind of logic does change, though. Now they're on DAZN. They can make fights with Matchroom and Queensberry more easily. We also do know that they were talking about, Top Rank. We want to expand in the U.S., and Top Rank is going to be our way to do that. You do have Matchroom there, but they only do like a monthly U.S. show, if that. Golden Boy, they don't have a deal with at the moment. MVP, they don't have a deal with at the moment. Ring Magazine, they just do the one-offs. So, having a consistent, simple U.S. broadcaster is going to be very, very big for DAZN in America. And they say they want to have a U.S. boxing event like every Saturday night, which is, we'll see if that happens, but I would love it. I would love it. Some interesting things. So they also said that Boots versus Zayas, that is in negotiations. We kind of knew that, but I'm hopeful it gets done soon. Foster versus Ford, they said they're in negotiations, but nowhere near as close as Matchroom is making it seem. They still have date, site, and money to agree on, which is essentially every main principle of a fight contract. So hopefully that gets cleared up soon enough. And then lastly, Teofimo Lopez, noticeably absent when he is the biggest star Top Rank has. Not on the poster, did no mention of him. Of course, he had been saying he wanted out of his contract. He'd been saying he had one fight left, and it looks like he did actually have one fight left, and he's now a free agent. We'll see who he ends up with, if he ends up with anyone, or if he just stays with Ring Magazine, just doing on big events. But yeah, Top Rank is now lost Shakur, Beterbiev, and now Teofimo, all within the last 12 to 18 months. Not great, but their fighters they have kept have done really, really well and won a lot of world titles. So I think they are in a good position entering this deal, and I hope it's fun. That was not the only broadcast deal. In very TKO fashion, Zuffa Boxing announced that they have a multi-year deal with Sky Sports in the UK and Ireland. We're going to have, not only will every Zuffa Boxing event air there, but they're going to have at least 5 shows per year in the UK, which is way more than the UFC does. UFC does like 1. And their first event in the UK will be in May. We don't know when. We don't know who is going to be or where in the UK. We don't know who's going to be headlining it. Conor Benn is their only British fighter. I'm pretty sure that they have signed, so they're definitely going to need to expand their stable a lot. But I think it's cool they're going to invest so much into the UK because that is a huge market for boxing, far bigger than it is for MMA, I think. And them heading over there, doing 5 shows a year when they only do like, I don't know, like what, like maybe they're going to end up doing like close to 18, something like that a year, if that, probably not. Doing 5 in the UK is big, so I'm looking forward to that getting started soon. And speaking of the UK, Dana White was in London to announce that deal, but also because UFC is in London this weekend for the big featherweight title eliminator. It's not being advertised as such, but that is what it is. It's number 1 undefeated Movsar Evloev versus number 3 undefeated Lerone Murphy. Both these guys have had to do a lot to get here. Movsar is 9-0, all decision wins. I think he's like 19-0, but 9-0 in the UFC. All of his wins have come by decision. Whereas Lerone Murphy has had some finishes. The last one, most notably, which is why he's in this position, is the spinning elbow KO over Aaron Pico that shocked the world. But before that, it was like 4 or 5 decisions in a row. So both these guys really, really, they're not in great position in terms of the UFC favor. Lerone more so, and excuse me. I want Lerone to win the fight. I'm rooting for him just because, for the same reason why the UFC has been hesitant to give Movsar a title shot, it's because the guy's just not exciting. I mean, he's never had a finish inside the UFC, but he beats everyone. And I do think Movsar will win this fight. Not super confidently, but I am picking him. I just think that his wrestling is really good. And if Lerone wants to win this fight, he has to keep it standing up, and he can be pretty successful. I don't know if he's going to be able to get rid of those takedowns. I mean, we saw him with Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico was kind of winning that fight before the elbow. And here you have Movsar, who's a guy who's going to be he's going to make far less mistakes, I think. He hasn't fought in almost a year and a half. This is true. But we're just going to have to see how he holds up. He looks absolutely shredded coming in. And the UFC definitely does not want Movsar to be their champion because he's boring. The same reason why Bilal took him so long to get a title shot, and Leon Edwards. Hopefully Lerone can do it. But if Movsar does it and it's exciting, I would be thrilled. I just don't see that happening. I think that Movsar wins almost definitely by decision. I don't see this one going under 5 rounds. Now, of course, Gian Silva is saying that he's going to be heading to London this weekend and that he's going to be signing a contract there to fight Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight title. I really hope this isn't true. We know Silva can just say some things. We know he's not far off from a title shot, but how anybody besides Movsar, the winner of this fight, can get a title shot is seriously beyond me. It was already ridiculous that Diego got a second one when he didn't deserve it at all. Now, if the guy that, Diego finished and has only had 1 win since then, if he gets a title shot, it's just stupid. I mean, if Volk wanted to fight in May and they just needed somebody and Movsar and Lerone aren't ready, fine, then you can do Gian Silva, I guess. But, dude, if they give it Gian Silva, God, it would be ridiculous. But I don't think they're going to mess up. I think they know that the fans really want to see the winner of this fight go for the belt. Even if it's going to potentially end up in a boring champion, because I do still think Volk beats them both, but who knows? Let's talk about that undercard. It's a pretty fun fight night, co-main event. It's a bit of a showcase. It's going to be Luke Riley. He's back against Michael Aswell Jr. Luke Riley, 12-0, undefeated as a professional mixed martial artist. I very much expect him to win this fight. Same gym as Patty the Batty. I think that they're putting him in a position where he can win. Before that, Michael Venom Page is back. He's fighting Sam Patterson, who I know he's on a win streak, but just such a random fight for MVP to be in. He's back at welterweight now. I feel like he needs to be fighting much more important fights, but the UFC definitely does not like MVP very much. So hopefully he gets a big win here and he can get a big one. I do think he beats Sam Patterson, but who knows? And then for that, Ivo Baraniowski coming off of the fight of the year for me against Ibo Aslan, which was 1 round of pure chaos. He's going to be fighting Austin Lane. I expect him to win there again. Roman Dolidze is going to have to defend his ranking against Christian Leroy Duncan. CLD is a guy who's been, on a win streak, and I kind of am picking him in this fight because Dolidze, got busted up by Fluffy Hernandez last time. Has won a few fights before then, but didn't look insane or anything. So here he's got a tough guy coming up the rankings at him. He's actually unranked, but deletes his 11. And I feel like this is, a fight that they're putting Duncan in to get that win, and I expect him to do so. And then opening up the main card is going to be the debut of Curtis Campbell as he takes on Danny Silva. I think we know which one that will probably go. And then featured fight on the prelims, Mason Jones. He's back against Axel Sola. Should be a pretty fun one. I'm kind of thinking Jones. Nathaniel Wood, Lucien Keita is a really, really fun fight. I'm picking Keita because this is his UFC debut, but Nathaniel Wood is always game. Mario Pinto, he's back fighting Felipe Franco. I think that, if he wins this, he could enter the rankings, and I expect he will win this. Montaz Kondratevicius, also making his UFC debut. He's going to be fighting Antonio Tricoli. Again, I think we kind of know which one that way is going. A lot of setup fights on this card, but it should be a fun one overall. I'm looking forward to it. Now let's talk about some boxing. We mentioned it. Carlos Adames and Austin Williams has been rebooked. We were meant to have this fight in January on the big MSG card. Adames, I think he fell ill right before, and it seemed like, okay, maybe he's done at 160, up to 168. He's now back, defending the title just 2 months later. We have not gotten to Friday yet, so we don't know the weights. I'm hoping that the same thing does not happen again, and that Adames has a healthier weight cut this time. I mean, it does happen when people have bad weight cuts, and then they're good next time. And look, I really, really expect Adames to beat Ammo. I mean, I don't think Ammo has looked sensational at all in his last few fights. We saw what happened when he got busted up by Hamza Shiraz, and look what happened when Hamza Shiraz stepped up to Adames. Adames, it was a draw, but he totally neutralized Shiraz and had him scared in the ring. So you throw the guy who got beaten up by Shiraz in there, and Ammo has not really had a good win since then. A lot of close wins. I don't see how I could pick Ammo in this fight at all. I think Adames stops him. I said the same thing in January, and I say it again now. I'm happy that Matchroom is getting this opportunity for a world title shot, but I don't see any way that he really wins it confidently. Some of everyone's favorite matchup prospects, Omari Jones. Of course, he's from Orlando. He's going to be in the co-main events of this card in an 8-rounder against Christian Gomez. Teramawana, he's back as well in his first 8-rounder as well. And then you also have Jacob Gomez, who's undefeated, versus Corey Marksman, who's also undefeated on the card. That is a really, really fun fight. I'm a huge fan of Corey Marksman. Not too familiar with Gomez, but undefeated versus undefeated. Let's see which way it goes. I love the Crew Royale Fight Nights, and this one should be good. It's not the only Matchroom card that day. Over in London, you've got George Liddard yet again stepping up in competition, this time against Tyler Denny for the British, Commonwealth, and IBF Intercontinental Middleweight Championships. So Tyler Denny, he, of course, came onto the scene big when he won the European title. Since then, he had the win over Elvis, or the loss to Hamza Shiraz, and then bounced back with win over Elvis Ahorga, and then had another decision win in December against Grant Dennis. He did not look good at all against Shiraz, got pieced up and destroyed in 2 rounds. And here, he's fighting George Liddard, who is not on Hamza Shiraz's level, at least not yet. And I think that he will actually be very competitive in this fight. I think it's a big step up for Liddard, but I do think George Liddard is really, really good. The way that he was able to beat Kieran Conlan last time was very impressive to me, and I do think that he beats Tyler Denny, likely by decision, but I think it's going to be competitive. I do. It's a really good matchup, and I'm picking Liddard. On the undercard, some more step-ups. Giorgio Vizioli taking on Levi Giles for the English title, and then Jimmy Saints as well fighting for the English title against Derek Osaz. Osaz gave Liddard a really good fight, a really good challenge last January. I think Jimmy Saints is very good. I think Vizioli is also very good, so I expect them to pass their test. Lele Buttigieg, he has his first 10-rounder against Jake Goodwin. Let's see how it goes. And then, a lot of fun guys like Connor Mitchell and Tyler Bevan and Adam Maka on the undercard, and the pro debut of Louis Ward. So, 2 Matchroom cards on Saturday, so that all should be fun. ProBox TV has what maybe their biggest main event ever, at least they're marketing it as that. They're really, really putting a lot of stock into this. They had a press conference today, or yesterday, I guess, really trying to promote this as much as they can. And, of course, Lester Martinez, he is going to be fighting Emmanuel Alim for the vacant WBC Interim Super Middleweight World Championship. Alim, not too familiar with him. Obviously, Lester Martinez had that great fight with Christian Billy on Netflix, and that was, of course, a draw. A lot of people, think that Martinez could have won it. I think it was definitely a draw. Some people thought Billy won it. I think they need to run it back, especially with Billy now being WBC champ. He could end up fighting Canelo and Billy, that is. And Martinez, I fully expect him to beat Alim on Saturday. There's not really much doubt behind it. and likely stop him in good fashion. And then he's a big star. I mean, I think he definitely deserves the Billy rematch, and I expect it to happen. If not, Gary Jonas saying they're already talking with the Guatemalan Festival in California to do another event in August where they could have him headline yet again, and they're expecting a sellout on Saturday. So I'm really excited to see him back in action on the undercard. You've got Joshua Kevin Anton fighting Kudratio Abdukakharov in the co-main event. Anton, undefeated, pretty good. Kudratio is a very, very fun and challenging fighter, though. That should be a good one. Anthony Cuba fighting Jair Valtierra, another very pro-box kind of fight. Chop Chop Gonzalez from Top Rank is fighting on here against Brandon Chambers. Sammy Contreras, also from Top Rank, will be on this card. Yeah, dude, I mean, it's a pretty fun lineup for Saturday in California, and I'm looking forward to it very much. Now let's go over to Madrid, Spain, and talk about some PFL. So headlining this Friday PFL card in Madrid, the first major MMA organization to do an event in Spain, beating the UFC to it when they have Ilia Topuria. You've got Costello van Steenis, who's, of course, the PFL middleweight champion, off of that insane come-from-behind victory over Johnny Eblen last July. He's going to be fighting Fabian Edwards, 5-round fight at middleweight. And as for who wins, this one could really go either way. I think it's a perfect fight to make right now. It makes a ton of sense in the world. Fabian Edwards coming off that win in the tournament last year, and then Van Steenis beating Eblen for the title. This is perfect. As for who wins, it could go either way. I'm going to end up picking Van Steenis just because I don't know, man. Like I just have a feeling about it. But then again, because Fabian Edwards, I wasn't super confident on him heading into the tournament, or really most fights last year in the tournament. I kept on thinking he was going to lose, and then he kept on proving me wrong. So maybe he proves me wrong again. But I'll tell you this right now, PFL very much would want Van Steenis to win at home, and then next week they want to have Johnny Eblen beat Brian Battle. Then you do the rematch sometime next year, probably in Spain again. And, that's a huge rematch for them to make. They could have done an immediate rematch, but I'm glad they didn't. So they definitely are going to want Van Steenis to get the win here, and I think he probably will. Co-main event, A.J. McKee taking on Adam Boric. That's a pretty fun fight as well. That one could go either way. A.J. McKee hasn't been, again, like I said, he hasn't been overly impressive in the last few fights. I mean, he did have the win over Ahmed Magomedov. That was also on the last time Van Steenis fought on that same card. Before that, it was lost to Paul Hughes, and it was on a win streak. It was a lot of wins before then. So I think he can do it here, but we'll see. He's in with a tough fight. Franco Tenaglia makes his PFL debut against Yassine Najid. So, again, I'm not really familiar with Najid, but I think they're giving Tenaglia a bit of a step up to get a big win there. Jaquinta Austin, Benita Van Ruji. Yeah, so then there's not a lot of great fights. I mean, Linton Vassell versus Jose Agosto is not a bad fight for the PFL heavyweight division. I think that they're both ranked. I'm not sure. Gino Van Steenis, the younger brother, is going to be fighting Mark Ewan on the prelims. A lot of Spanish fighters on there. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the Spanish MMA crowd feels like. It should be a fun event. Okay, the first ever MF Pro boxing card is here. Obviously, we know they have Deontay Wilder, Derek Chisora coming up. They've had a few pro fighters on their cards, but this is the first time they're really going into it. And we also know that this is Wasserman Boxing officially. Wasserman, the Sauerland brothers announced that Wasserman has now been rebranded completely into MF Sports, obviously including Misfits Boxing and Misfits Pro, and they are planning to expand into 2 other sports this year. I expect one of those is Misfits MMA. I don't know what the other one is. Probably not combat sports. Probably something similar to how Matchroom is involved in many sports, some smaller ones. Maybe they're doing the same thing, but yeah, I think that using the Misfits brand and the DAZN deal to, essentially revitalize Wasserman into something bigger is a big call. I mean, just look at their first 2 events. It's way bigger than anything Wasserman has done in years. So, I like this new MF Pro direction. Main event here at the SSE Arena in Belfast is going to be Michael Conlan, of course, fighting undefeated American Kevin Walsh. I mean, 19-0 with 10 knockouts. A good record, but similar to Conlan's last opponent, who also had a good record. I think Conlan beats him. I think that Conlan is not entirely washed. I don't think he's world level at all. They're talking about they want to fight Shushu Carrington for the WBC title next. I mean, there is a WBC International Featherweight Championship on this, and so Conlan will be well ranked, but I hope he doesn't get a title shot because he won't deserve one. They say they have a hold on the theater at MSG for October, because MF Pro is going to be pretty international. But I don't think that Conlan gets his title shot, and at least I hope not, because, again, he hasn't earned it yet. He hasn't. But you know what? Gets a big win here. Maybe we can talk about that Lee Wood fight, and that is one I would love to see. So, yeah, big things coming that way. Also on the card, Kira Malloy versus Xavier Cullen, who's 15-2, so, not bad. Neil Brown, he's fighting Darren Johnstone, who only has one loss, so, good fight there, I guess. And then some guys like Cody Smith and Ben Marksby on the card. And Kurt Walker's back, although he's fighting in a 6-rounder. Granted, this is his first fight since the loss to Liam Davies, so definitely just a comeback. Also Friday, over in Hollywood, Florida, BKFC is back with another big card. Kai Stewart defends the featherweight title yet again against Nico Goffi, who's also undefeated. I mean, look, at this point, I don't really know what to say. Kai Stewart just kind of dominates everybody he fights, and I'm expecting the same thing. On to the next, Hopefully he gets a new challenger or moves up in weight. I don't know, because he needs a new challenge. Leonardo Perdomo, he's in the co-main. He's fighting Orlando Colter. Perdomo has to get a title shot soon, and I think that he will after this one because Mick Terrell is there, but it seems like they do want to do Andrei Arlovsky, Leonardo Perdomo. Perdomo finishes like everybody in the first round, and, again, I think he's going to do the same thing here. Brian Duran versus Derek Perez, also here in the feature fight. That should be all chaos, and behind Duran on that one. And then Rosalinda Rodriguez versus Shelby Cannon as well will be on that card. Rodriguez undefeated in BKFC. And then we do have some other boxing. Nina Manka, she's going to be defending her IBF featherweight title against Deanna Vargas. The IBO title is also in line. That is going to be 12 3-minute rounds. So similar to what Amanda Serrano and Elysium Baumgartner are doing with those longer fights. I mean, Nina Manka was meant to fight Amanda Serrano over 12 threes, and, MVP is not the only one who's doing it. So, shout out to the whatever German promoter's doing this. But, that's pretty cool. Salida has another Puerto Rico card tonight with Felix Perea versus Jose Velasquez, who has lost 4 of his last 6 fights. I think Perea should probably win that. And then some guys like Abisel Koto and Kyria Tapia and Garrett Rice on the undercard. And nothing really much. And then Alexander Usyk, his real promotional debut is going to be Saturday. A lot of random prospects, but main event is the return of Daniel Lappin, of course. He's been fighting Kristaps Bullmeisters, who's been loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. I expect Lappin to win that one. Hopefully he's more impressive than he has been, and excited to see what Usyk's 17 promotion looks like. So that is all the fights that we have coming up this weekend. Let's talk about some more news. So the long-rumored and discussed David Benavidez-Zurdo Ramirez undercard is now official. So let's go through it. Co-main event is going to be Jose Armando Resendiz defending the WBA super middleweight title against Jaime Munguia. We know it was meant to be Jermall Charlo, but then the last minute switches back to Munguia as Charlo to pull out with personal problems we've heard, which is unfortunate, but that's been the case with Charlo the last few years. Had a lot of personal issues. Hopefully he gets them resolved and can return to the ring. Oscar Duarte going to be fighting Angel Fierro, as was reported. And then opening up the card will be Isaac Lucero against Alan Sandoval. So a fun fight. All Mexicans on this card. The only one who doesn't hold the Mexican flag, I guess, is David Benavidez, but he's Mexican-American. So Mexican versus Mexican, 4 ways. Going to be very, very fun. Now, as for the card itself, look, from what we were hearing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be card of the year, because we were hearing Lamont Roach, William Zepeda, although I never expected that to be on the card. It was just because it was PBC versus Golden Boys, why it was talked about as such, but that's a big enough fight. They'd probably want that to be its own main event. And then Shakram Giasov, Raul Curiel is one that was mentioned very lightly. I hope that one could still be added. Like the prelim, but you can't even do that. It's too big. I don't know. I hope they do make that fight still. And then it was also just reported that Ryan Rozicki versus Robin Serwin Safar was also being added for this card, which is a really good cruiserweight. Both those guys are regarded as like top 10 at the 200-pound division. So I don't know. Some big fights that didn't end up on this card, and you do still get Resendiz Munguia and Duarte's back, and Lucero Sandoval should be fun, but, I got to be honest. I think the pay-per-view itself will deliver because all the fights are going to be fantastic, but in terms of like the names and the title fights we were hoping for, it wasn't what I was expecting, but we'll still take it. John Fury says that his relationship with Tyson Fury is ruined, and this is over Tyson's decision to come out of retirement. I hope that's not the case. I mean, look, I love Big John Fury, and I think that he's probably just talking some shite as he does, and we know that the Furies are not necessarily men of their words as much as he likes to say they always bounce him back and forth between what they say, but John Fury is a ripe character. He is so funny. I mean, I think we all remember when he flipped the press conference at the KSI Tommy Fury, or flipped the table at that press conference for KSI Tommy Fury. That was one of the best moments ever, but yeah, that's unfortunate to hear, and I expect them to still make amends and stuff, and who knows. Robert Whitaker said that he's been booked for a fight in July at the light heavyweight limit this time around. And then just like a few hours later this morning, Magomed Ankalaev tweets and says he'll be fighting July in Abu Dhabi. We know that Abu Dhabi always has a fight night in July and then a pay-per-view in October. And Robert Whittaker headlined the last Abu Dhabi fight night. I expect he'll probably be on this card as well, if not in the main event. And it looks like it could be against Ankalaev. Now, Whittaker moving up to light heavyweight, I'm cool with. Ankalaev's a very big light heavyweight. And if they are the two that are fighting, it's a bit of a weird one. You know, Whittaker coming into the division, and I think Ankalaev is ranked number 1, or at least, you know, I mean, like, he's a former champion. He just lost the belt, so he would be ranked really high. Whittaker getting a fight like that is crazy, but I totally expect Ankalaev to be a heavy favorite in that one. I hope not, because I love Whittaker, and I think that Ankalaev, I mean, here's the thing is that no matter who Ankalaev fights, if he gets the win, he's almost guaranteed to get the winner of Prochazka and Olberg. It's just how it is, you know, it's just because he will be the best guy in the division with Pereira gone. So, yeah, if it is Ankalaev Whittaker, why not? It's a big fight. I just think that there are ones that make more sense for both Ankalaev's next fight and the debut of Robert Whittaker. Shara Magomedov versus Michel Pereira looks like it's been booked for June 27th at UFC Baku in Azerbaijan. They went there last year. Looks like they're going to come back this year. This could be the main event. It really could be. I got to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed with this matchmaking. I know Michel Pereira did win his last fight, although it was a little bit controversial. But Shara Magomedov, I mean, the guy just like I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know if I feel like he should be fighting bigger fights by now. You know, like, right? Like, he stepped up one time against MVP and he got beat, I understand. But since then, I think he's only fought like once or twice, and they haven't been against the top opponents. And I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting for him to really, you know, start moving to the rankings because he's so exciting and he's so cool to watch. But we're just not really seeing that right now. We're not seeing him in the toughest fights, I don't think. And Michel Pereira is a good, explosive opponent, similar to Shara, I guess. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Jared Anderson is set to have his UK debut, or it's being finalized for him to fight on the Worley Dubois card against Solomon Dakers. We know that he is likely to be signed by Queensberry, and that's what's happening. But yeah, it looks like he's going to be fighting Solomon Dakers, which I actually think is a really good fight right now. I mean, Dakers had a good comeback performance last time. It was an upset win on the Usyk Dubois 2 card. Anderson needs to get back in the win column, and here he is fighting a tough guy who also only has one loss and is against just a better opponent. And I think that Anderson would be a pretty decent favorite in that fight. So I have no issues with it. They're both around similar stages in their career. It's just that one is like an English level fighter, one is who tried to go British and couldn't really do it, and the other one is an American level fighter who tried to go world and wasn't ready. But I do think Big Baby can get to that world level if he's really disciplined. But I like Anderson versus Dakers a lot for that card. And then lastly, Lorenz Larkin versus Jason Jackson has reportedly been added to the May 16th Netflix card. I mean, that's not as big of a fight as the other ones, of course, but it's a decent enough MMA match. You know, there's not that many big-name free agents outside of the UFC, so if they can get fights like this to fill out the rest of the card, that is a very, very solid card. I mean, Jason Jackson headlined a PFL card last year on ESPN. And so, I mean, like, these guys are still somewhat of commodities. And, you know, if MVP can get the rest of the card to look like this, I think we're in for a very, very special night of MMA. Likely going to be the most watched ever. So, yeah, looking forward to it. That's all I've got for today. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that you have a great weekend and you enjoy the fights. Probably do an episode like Monday, recapping everything. I am curious to see, because it is 2 days before a lot of these fights, can something go wrong before then? Hopefully not, but that's all I have. Thank you for listening, and peace out.